It's my pleasure today to talk to you guys about Kratom and to give you an overview of this substance, kind of the history of it, and where it's used, how it's used, and as much information as I can fit into the next hour. If there are any questions that come up, please feel free to ask them, and I'll do my best to answer them as well. To give you a little bit more information about myself, this is my contact information. If you have questions that come up that perhaps I could assist with or help answer, I'm happy to. Just to give you a little bit more on my background and why I would even be presenting today. As Ernie said, I started law enforcement back in 1982. So doing a little bit of math, that puts me in law enforcement for over 40 years. I started off attending the Riverside County Sheriff's Academy. And after graduating from the academy, I went to work for a city here in Los Angeles County, or a city in Los Angeles County, the Vernon Police Department. And I worked there for a little over 3 years before doing what in law enforcement is known as a lateral transfer over to the Torrance Police Department. I then spent about 30 years at the Torrance Police Department. And again, as was mentioned, I retired at the rank of lieutenant. During my career at both Vernon and Torrance, I really had a career that when I look back on it, I almost doesn't seem real because I, from early on, had an interest in drugs, drug enforcement, drug influence, and understanding why people use drugs, and investigated individuals from use to all the way up to organized cartels. Once I retired, I began volunteering for the Orange County Sheriff's Department as part of their Reserve Bureau, but not as a normal reserve going out and enforcing the laws, but rather as a chaplain. Aspect of my life that's always been important is the wellness of people, including law enforcement. And so I volunteered, and technically I still volunteer as a chaplain for the Orange County Sheriff's Department. And the reason that I've got a Orange County Fire patch up there as well, a lot of people in the law enforcement community might say, hey, fire and police don't mix, but after I'd been volunteering for about a year for the Orange County Sheriffs, I was actually approached by the Orange County Fire Authority, and they asked if I would consider being one of their chaplains as well. And so that is another role that I still keep to this day. So chaplain work is important to me. It gives me an aspect, not just in the enforcement side of things, but as especially in my work with fire, working with individuals who have a substance abuse issue, and not working or being involved in it from an enforcement side, but as a counselor and as someone who can hopefully assist people, which is why I do the chaplain work. As Ernie mentioned, CNOA is up there, the California Narcotic Officers Association. I've been involved in that organization more or less my whole career, and am currently a volunteer as the president. My modern life started in 2021 with the Orange County District Attorney's Office. where they have a position, and the position I currently am employed in is that of a Office of Traffic Safety, Traffic Resource Safety Prosecutor, drug recognition expert. And what that mouthful of word salad means is that my life now is teaching about drugs and particularly drug influence. I teach prosecutors, I teach law enforcement, I teach members of the community, such as I'm doing today. We have programs out of our office where we speak to high school students. And so that is basically about a third of my life. The other responsibilities I have in this position is that I'm available statewide as a drug recognition expert. And what that means is that prosecutors can inquire of me regarding driving under the influence cases anywhere in the state, and can utilize me to review reports, to review arrests, to look at cases to determine if there is in fact impairment in a driving under the influence case, and if the impairment, in my opinion, is caused by drugs or some other factor, such as a medical impairment or a medical issue. And then the last thing that I do is I testify in court. And again, I'm available to any courtroom in the state of California, and not just Orange County. And in fact, I have testified as an expert in San Diego, down in San Diego County. I've advised and assisted in cases out of San Diego and many of the other counties here in the state of California. So that's me. Let me tell you, I'm in an office right now that has an automatic light, so I may occasionally move out of frame to make sure the light comes back on. I apologize for that in advance. So the first thing I want to talk about is Kratom is what we call it, but you see that word underneath, and the interesting thing is that there's lots of different people or lots of different pronunciations, I should say, to how this word gets said. Most commonly, I'm going to call it mitragynine. Mitragynine. But other acceptable pronunciations of this are metragenine or mitragenine. So however you'd like to pronounce it, feel free. There are quite a few different ways that people pronounce that word. The plant itself grows naturally in Southeast Asia, and it has been around for thousands of years. This is nothing new. It's not some just modern discovery. It has been used in Southeast Asia in for many years as a substance where if you chew on the leaves, you can get either a slight stimulant effect. In fact, it has a lot of parallels to how individuals down in South America who have the coca plant from which we get cocaine, the coca plant down there will be chewed by individuals to get a slight stimulation. If you chew the leaves, it in essence is their equivalent of a morning cup of coffee. It has very little altering substance in it in its natural form when the leaves are chewed. You'll see if you start to look into Kratom that individuals who use it will speak about red vein, green vein and white vein varieties. Um, those are just subtle differences in the plant, but individuals who use kratom uh, will describe green vein oftentimes as energy and focus. They will describe the red vein as being more relaxing and calm, and they will describe the white vein as more balance and mood. Uh, I will say, and I'll say it throughout this presentation, there is some scientific research into this plant, but comparatively to other substances that are used or abused, that scientific study is very, very limited. So a lot of the information that individual users have on kratom is that it's anecdotal or information from other users. As of the 1800s, it was discovered as a herbal medicine and in essence taken out of exclusively Southeast Asia and was actually used as a herbal medication for individuals who are seeking to get some stimulation, but also, and we'll get into dosing and things like that, but it can also serve as a substance that will help calm or relax individuals. It's been used for control of diarrhea or stomach issues and other things like that. In 2016 was probably, I've been teaching about kratom since the early 2000s. So it's been out there and it's being used. It's been used and abused for quite some time here in the United States. But in 2016, something interesting happened. The Drug Enforcement Administration, in essence, took the first step towards scheduling it. It currently is not scheduled, and the DEA's process for scheduling a drug is to issue a notice of intent to schedule. When they did that, there was huge public pushback. In essence, the reason, and again, if you go back in your memory to 2016, we were living in the beginnings of what is currently our modern opiate epidemic. And what the pushback was is that so many people were using kratom as a substance to help them, basically as a self-help, to help them get off of opiates such as prescription medications like OxyContin addictions or even heroin addictions. Around 2016, I actually was involved in a case which unfortunately involved a death, a opiate overdose death. And the individual in that case was using kratom in order to try and do self-help withdrawal from their opiate addiction. And over this time and up till today, what we're seeing, because it's widely available and because, like with many drugs, a plant that was originally in its native plant form only possibly, and I say possibly, very unlikely to be abused. the industry that pushes a lot of synthetic substances and things like that has worked to turn kratom from this plant into a much more powerful substance. And in fact, in my current role, one of the things that I see uh, more and more frequently is drivers arrested for driving under the influence, and the substance that comes back in their system is kratom. So the problem that we are experiencing now in society is increased availability, a lack of information about it, and the fact that, I read in a recent police report for a DUI, the individual in essence complained to the arresting officer that he's taking an over-the-counter substance and he's taking it as the directions on the packaging told him to take it. And so he did not understand why he could be arrested for driving under the influence. With increased use and with increased potency, as I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir, a lot of you are aware, we get increased addiction, and unfortunately, we're seeing an increase in deaths. We'll talk more about its status, but the reality is unless your local municipality or county has instituted some sort of criminal controls, the current legal status of kratom is that it is legal criminally. It is a civil penalty here in California to distribute it or to sell it. But use of it, possession of it is not criminal. And again, we'll talk more about that in a moment. So, as I said, the mitragynine is active as an alkaloid within the plant. A normal plant will have under 2% of mitragynine in the plant. And again, that's why for centuries it was used basically without major issues or incidents. There is also a substance in it in very small amounts called 7-hydroxymitragynine, or 7-OH. And if you've been into any locations that are selling kratom, you probably have seen advertisements or packaging, and again, I'll show you examples of this and we'll talk about it, for 7-OH. That is how they will frequently market or abbreviate the 7-hydroxymitragynine. So what happens in the human body when you ingest mitragynine is that the liver converts any mitragynine in the system into 7-hydroxymitragynine. The danger of that is that the metabolite is up to 22 times more potent than the natural substance that you put in your body. What makes that even more problematic, and again, we'll talk more about the synthetic versions that have made this a huge problem, is that when 7-OH is in the body actually metabolizes it into a substance called mitragynine pseudoindoxyl. That substance is nearly as potent as fentanyl. And again, if the body is doing this with a minuscule amount that was found in the natural leaf, then this is not a huge issue and the body metabolizes it out. So, to put it in the scientific terms, both of the metabolites, the major metabolites, are what we call active metabolites. Active metabolites are substances that can still cause impairment, can still cause harm. If you're familiar, for example, with marijuana, the primary substance in marijuana is delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. In the human body, that delta-9 THC is metabolized into hydroxy delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol and carboxy delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. Hydroxy THC is impairing, and similarly to this, the hydroxy THC can even be more impairing than the parent THC. And of course, again, if you're familiar, carboxy THC is a non-active metabolite. So in the metabolite world, we look, at least in my world, I look at, is it an active metabolite or a non-active or an inactive metabolite? So carboxy THC is not active, which means you cannot get high on carboxy THC. The unfortunate thing in Kratom is that two of the metabolites are both active and more powerful. So where's this stuff coming from? Where do we get it? Well, if you go into a smoke shop, if you go into a liquor store, even certain gas stations, you will see Kratom products for sale. Again, because it's not criminal, it's only civil, there's very little current dissuasion from a shop owner selling Kratom, and even as this picture illustrates, advertising it boldly. Once you are aware of this and you start just looking around during your daily travels, you will see Kratom advertised as boldly as this smoke shop is doing. But also, I'm going to be showing you some products, and I can say that in my travels, again, throughout California, I see, if they don't do the big Kratom neon sign in the window, they will, at a minimum, put up very professionally done advertisements. In a liquor store window, if you drive by, you're going to see, an advertisement for various brands of beer or alcohol, professionally done signs. You'll see these same things for Kratom products, and they may not say Kratom, but they're going to say the name of the product, and anybody who is a user of Kratom will know immediately when that sign shows up that that sign means that they've got Kratom products available inside. So what's being sold is very little of the natural plant. In fact, while you could buy it, that's not what the users are after. If they are using full natural, what they're typically going to get is a ground up concentrated powder of Kratom leaves. So they might be just getting mitragynine, but they are getting a concentrated form of it. The other thing that you will now see being sold is the synthetics or semi-synthetics. They'll sell the 7-hydroxymitragynine, or they will even sell synthetic versions of the 7-hydroxy pseudoindoxyl. The problem for, I'll say, even users and for society in general, is that if you ingest the actual metabolite, the 7-OH or the 7-hydroxy pseudoindoxyl in a synthetic form, you are avoiding the first pass metabolism, and you are ingesting a substance that could be, in the case of 7-hydroxy pseudoindoxyl, as powerful as fentanyl. Definitely the synthetic versions of 7-OH and the 7-hydroxy pseudoindoxyl are more powerful than morphine. They are more powerful than any of the OxyContin or oxycodone or any of those prescription drugs. And again, this is where the industry, in my opinion, and this is just me speaking from my opinion, the industry has, in essence, created a monster out of a substance that for thousands of years prior was not a monster. So the forms that it can come in, it can come in the concentrated powders, as I mentioned. It can come in the form of teas. It can come in concentrated extracts. They're putting it in gummies, similar to what they do now with THC, similar to what they're even starting to do now with psilocybin hallucinogenic mushrooms. They're putting it into beverages. I'll show a picture in a second, but recently a partner of mine who works for a law enforcement agency was out on patrol, and another officer went into a liquor store and bought what the officer thought was just a normal energy drink. In fact, the can was labeled as an energy drink. The officer, opened it, came out, and the two officers were talking, and my partner, who's well aware of Kratom and is well aware of its dangers and whatnot, took a closer look at the can that this on-duty law enforcement officer was drinking out of, and realized that he had taken a few sips of Kratom because the beverage was Kratom. So this is obviously problematic because anyone, quite honestly, could go in and grab one of these cans and not even realize that they're consuming a Kratom product. It also comes in tablets, and one of the things that people are now doing as well is they have preloaded vape pens that contain the 7-OH and the 7-mitragynine pseudoindoxyl. So this is an example of the can that law enforcement officer picked up. You notice it looks very similar to any other energy drink product. It does have the word Kratom on it, but it's not. If you weren't paying attention, if you just grabbed this off the shelf at your local liquor store or gas station, you could easily pick this up, you could easily drink it, and you would not realize that you are actually consuming what I would argue is a dangerous substance. It is interesting that this particular manufacturer has that warning label on the can, which in essence says 1 can equals energy, 2 cans equal in the couch. And we'll talk more about that, but Kratom has a very unique ability to both be a stimulant and be consistent with what in my world we would classify as a narcotic analgesic or a depressing substance. So, as I mentioned, they have gummies, they have energy shots, they have powders. If, again, you were at your local liquor store and this was sitting on the counter next to the 5-hour energies, you might not think twice about getting one of these and having it instead, especially if you were trying to stay away from, caffeine or something, because people even to this day are now talking about how excessive caffeine can be a problem. When they say mitragynine extract, that is in essence code for that's the 7-OH. And so there's all these different products that are out there. You can see this one is advertising as a pain reliever, as a stress reliever, and also as a way to gain energy. This is one that, again, the problem is that this product here by this company is a liquid shot that has, in essence, the pseudo-indoxyl, which is the substance that's as strong as fentanyl, and 7-hydroxymitragynine, which is, again, more powerful than morphine and much more powerful than the original substance. So this company is taking the two synthetic versions of this substance and utilizing it in order to provide a product for people who may or may not realize the dangers of what they're taking. This product here is very widely available, and this company I find interesting because when I was talking about the posters you might see in a liquor store window, this company is one that I have seen all over California. And you notice on this bottle, they don't say that you're ingesting kratom. And yet this is not only kratom, but this company also will put kava into their little shot as well. So again, an individual who picks this up is reading a label that says it's a plant-based herbal supplement. Pretty innocent, and yet it contains substances that are impairing and addictive. If you don't like the liquids, you can get tablets. And again, here's that same company with their tablets, their pseudo-indoxyl and 7-OH products, and available for purchase if you just want a pill, chewable tablet. And again, look at the marketing. It's marketed as, spearmint, watermelon, strawberry, all kinds of just good tasting, delicious flavors that you wouldn't necessarily associate with a product that can be harmful. So just more examples of their packaging. Here's another company that is just selling the 7-hydroxymitragynine. And again, all the tablets are made to taste good and, again, appear innocent. Another company out there selling chewable tablets. These at least look a little bit more like a package that you might see a pill come in, like for a cold medicine or something like that, whereas the other ones look more like a candy. Another company that another type of packaging that they're using. Yet another one out there, again, selling they're calling it 7-hydro rather than 7-OH. Here's one that is selling just straight 7-hydroxypseudoindoxyl. And again, just looking like a harmless product. The vapes, again, selling vapes that are various fruit flavors. Again, in my opinion, offering a product that is something that would be looked at as harmless or as innocent, especially to younger people. And again, this package contains, in essence, a preloaded vape. It's got everything in there. All you need to do is utilize it. Another company selling the vapes, and yet another one selling the vapes. If you notice, there's a lot of discrepancy in all of these different products as to their dosage. And we'll talk about that in a moment, but because there's no FDA work that's been done on any of these, even within the manufacturers, there is not a standard dosage, which again is problematic. This one's sold as a vape that is a pain reliever, and they even put the RX symbol on there, even though this is not available by prescription. So who's using this? Probably the two largest users are people who are seeking to self-treat for a opiate or drug addiction. Obviously, and you'll see why more in just a moment when I talk about how it works in the body, but this is primarily used as an opiate alternative. An opiate replacement is what the users will call it, such as methadone is a replacement for addiction to fentanyl, but obviously that is only available through prescription and through programs. So users will seek out Kratom because it is a replacement therapy for them where they can buy it over the counter. There are individuals, if you, as I have, talked to individuals who use this or read online where individuals will talk about Kratom use and how they use it and why they use it. There's a lot of anecdotal stories about users self-treating for other drugs as well. There are people who swear that Kratom helped them get off of methamphetamine. There are users who will tell you that they use Kratom now instead of alcohol. So it's a self-treatment for other drugs, not as a treatment, but rather as a replacement. Where it's used more accurately as a self-treatment is individuals who have chronic pain, who are trying to use it instead of the traditional opiates, such as an OxyContin or something along those lines. It's also used surprisingly, quite a bit by people who want to manage anxiety issues or depression issues. And then last but not least, there is a large group of individuals who use this recreationally because, like other substances of abuse or use, it comes with, especially when you're first using it, you get the euphoria and you get desirable effects that people who are recreational users of drugs are seeking. The problem, and this, again, in my opinion, is one of the biggest problems, is there is no FDA approval. None of these products have been subjected to any testing or any research as to purity, as to potency, as to recommended doses, as to anything that would resemble a legitimate product. The individuals who use this get their information from other users, and they, in essence, again, this is my opinion, a lot of times are operating in the dark. And that comes with a whole host of problems that, again, I'm sure many of you who are online right now are very well aware of. So, as I mentioned, the most common way to ingest kratom is orally. Secondarily, though, people are choosing to vape it. And the difference, again, if you're familiar with how drugs are absorbed into the body, oral doses are going to take longer to get into the system. A smoked dose is going to be immediate. So the onset when kratom products are consumed orally is basically 10 minutes to 60 minutes. So you're not going to feel an immediate effect from it. You're going to feel it after a short amount of time, but maybe as long as 60 minutes. That depends on things like tolerance, the dose you took, whether you'd eaten anything, so that your stomach was either empty or full, and a lot of variabilities. But 10 minutes to 60 minutes is what the onset. And then, of course, if you smoke it, you're going to have an immediate onset. The duration of effect, generally speaking, is about 2 hours to 6 hours. If you took a smaller dose, you might have a duration of effects less than 2 hours. And some of the very potent forms, users will say that they feel the effects for up to 8 hours. But generally speaking, 2 to 6 hours. Really quick, so that we're all on the same page, I just want to talk about tolerance. Tolerance, again, I'm sure many of you are very familiar with it, but I just want to make sure we're all speaking the same language and on the same page. The best definition I've ever read or heard about for tolerance is that users use a substance for a desired effect. And as they use more often, the body builds tolerance. And so tolerance just simply means that an individual needs to either take a higher dose of the substance or a more potent form of the substance in order to gain tolerance, and overcome tolerance rather, and get their desired effect. So tolerance does occur with all the kratom products. And so that perhaps could be an explanation as to why the manufacturers are looking for stronger and more potent varieties or doses to make available to their customers. Mu receptors. If you have worked around opiates at all, you are familiar with mu receptors. For those of you who aren't, the mu receptor is the receptor within our body that a opiate likes and attaches to. And mu receptors are the mechanism for kratom. The reason kratom can act like a narcotic analgesic is because it has the ability to activate the mu receptors. And because it can activate the mu receptors, kratom can do everything that any opiate. And again, I want to make it clear, kratom is not an opiate in the traditional sense. Kratom is a completely different plant. It's a completely different animal than the opiates are. But when it comes to how it affects the human body, how it works in the human body, this is where kratom becomes the replacement for traditional opiates because it hits the same receptors. And where the problem becomes when you start to get into synthetically produced kratom metabolites, such as the 7-hydroxymitragane or pseudoindoxyl, the most powerful metabolite, you in essence have a very, very powerful mu receptor in that substance. So in low doses, let's go back to our can because it's a great illustration. In low doses, if you were to see an individual who is impaired by kratom, they will look like they're on a stimulant. They will be acting like a stimulant. They'll be restless. They might have anxiety. They might have hyperactivity. If you were to take their heart rate, it would be very likely that their heart rate is elevated. They might be experiencing muscle tremors or muscle rigidity, and they oftentimes might have their internal clock can be off. They could have a misperception of time. In high doses, this looks and acts like what we call a narcotic analgesic or an opiate. And in that case, what we start to see are pinpointed pupils. Officers in DUI cases are reporting seeing pinpointed pupils that they associate with a opiate use, such as fentanyl, and yet there's no fentanyl or traditional opiates in the subject system. The only thing coming back are mitragynine or its metabolites. So all the things you might have seen with someone who had a heroin addiction problem or more recently a fentanyl addiction problem, you're going to see many of those same indicators with kratom in high dose. The facial itching or body scratching, droopy eyelids, dry mouth, those types of indicators. And again, here's an example of droopy eyelids. In the DRE world, the definition of a droopy eyelid is where the eyelid is touching the pupil, as it is in this picture. The normal condition of a non-droopy eye is that the eyelid touches the iris or the colored portion of the eye. So you may well see with higher doses droopy eyelids. And again, in the driving world that I live in the police reports I read, where mitragynine or kratom was the substance that impaired, we see drowsiness, we see dizziness, we see mood changes. In essence, the emotions overtake the cognitive thought. The individual experiences divided attention problems, short-term memory problems, and inattention. Covered all that. So if I have any law enforcement people watching this, or anyone who would conduct a physical examination of a subject, This drug does not cause horizontal gaze nystagmus or vertical gaze nystagmus. It does not affect the individual's ability to cross their eyes. Interestingly, again, in some doses, you will end up with an elevated pulse rate. And then in other higher doses, you may end up with a slow or low pulse rate. And then again, in our DRE world, we do our standardized field sobriety tests, and we see impairment that is consistent with the opiates or the stimulants in our evaluations. Pupil size, this one is consistently, in the reports I've read and the documentation I've read, pupil size is consistently constricted, whereas a typical stimulant, such as methamphetamine or quite honestly any stimulant, will tend to dilate the pupil. But in Kratom cases, even in the low dose where they're acting more like a stimulant, their pupils will still be constricted. So that is a much more common condition than any other eye condition. And if you were to check their eyes for a reaction to light, it's going to be slow. So I want to say really quick on dosing. These dosages are all based on information from users. So none of this is scientifically validated or there's no medical information that I'm aware of that has determined a dose. So I want to put that out as a caution ahead of time. But generally speaking, if you're using the powder or the mitragynine original leaf, it's going to be measured in grams. The dose will be measured in grams, and 1 to 5 grams is generally going to give the user a stimulant effect. 5 to 15 grams is going to give opiate-like effects. And in fact, many of the users who are self-treating and wanting to get the more opiate-like effects will use up to as much as 20 grams of this product per day in order to get those effects. When we start to talk about the 7-OH, now we're measuring in milligrams. Obviously, this is synthetic and much more potent. So a fraction of what would be used in the powder creates a stimulant effect. And again, over 20 milligrams, which if you remember the packets, the for sale products I showed you earlier, most of those start at 20 and go above that in milligrams to get opiate-like effects. But again, I just want to stress, there is no human testing. So all of these amounts are anecdotal from users. When we talk about the most potent synthetic form, the 7-hydroxy pseudoindoxyl, as little as 1 milligram can give you the stimulant effects. And again, over 20 milligrams can give you opiate-like effects. This product is addictive, and so there are withdrawals. I'll just, in the interest of time, because I know I'm running out, the withdrawals look very similar to opiate withdrawals. So if you've seen someone who is going through opiate withdrawals, you're going to see much of the same type of information or responses. The one thing is that if someone overdoses, it causes the same problem with breathing that any opiate will. And so there are some reports out there that Narcan can be effective, but again, Narcan has not been tested for Kratom, so we don't know for sure. But anecdotally, there are people out there who say that Narcan can work. I'll leave you with this. The legal status of Kratom is that, again, as I said at the beginning, it's not illegal criminally. The California Department of Public Health has made it a civil violation to sell it, manufacture it for consumption, and the California Department of Health has the ability to enforce this. I'll put up this slide because that QR code takes you to the California Department of Health website, which gives you all the information on what is illegal under their rules. And also this information on this slide gives you a number to call if you find Kratom or 7-OH products for sale.